Hola, cage fighting connoisseurs. This is KidNativeBloodyElbow.com, joined by Eddie Mercado for the sixth round of UFC Mexico City. Sergio Pettis fends off Brandon Moreno. Unanimous decision win. 5 rounds. Eddie, your thoughts?
What an awesome card. This card definitely looked like it wasn't, there's not a lot of wow factor on this card, right? Not a lot of names, not a lot of people anyone's really heard of, but holy shit. 7 first-round finishes? Are you kidding me? That never happens. In the main event, we had Sergio Pettis. He looked like he was in some early trouble, and he showed his composure and took over the fight with his striking. I thought it was an excellent performance for him. Even though he's not out here getting any finishes, he's yet to get a UFC finish, he definitely outclassed Moreno on the feet.
This is very true. I saw a lot of good things from Pettis. I saw some good things from Moreno, but I felt like Pettis failing to put it away and then getting dominated in the 5th round sort of exposed him as still a pretty limited fighter. I mean, he doesn't throw enough combinations. He's not aggressive enough. And when you can survive a first round, a near-death experience in the first round that lasted the whole first round, and that's great. That shows a lot of character and fortitude. But when you turn that around and then start to dominate, especially like in the 3rd round when he really started clocking him with those punches to the head, and then not put him away and find yourself on your back underneath a pretty good grappler in the 5th round, I mean, in a championship fight, that's how you lose. You know?
True, but to be fair, I mean, he did make it back to his feet, and
he did.
To it.
He did. I mean, it was a good performance. I thought it was a good performance from both guys. I think Moreno it was too much too soon to throw him in there with Sergio Pettis. Not that either of these guys is a veteran. I mean, they are snot-nosed 23-year-old kids, and it's good to see young talent getting the push. Don't get me wrong. But
definitely good to see the young guns, the fresh blood out here. And, that could be a little bit of Pettis' issue, perhaps. He's only 23. He doesn't necessarily have the full-on grown man strength yet that, with his style, like Anthony Pettis, you really need a little bit of power to go with that precision. And you can't be landing clean head kicks and not getting the knockout.
Yeah.
You have to really work on the power. And that could come with age. But
and maybe size. I mean, this was that's the knock on flyweights, and we saw one quick knockout in the flyweight, the record-setting knockout in the flyweight division earlier in the card. But as a rule, flyweights have the fewest knockouts of any division, so it might just be a function of size and strength. But I also think it's a little bit of a function of aggressiveness that he tends to pot shot a little bit and not go enough for combinations. But it's a pleasure to watch the kid fight. He has got some sharp, crisp technique. Really, I mean, those straight punches are straight. The flying kicks are flying. I mean, he's got a lot of tools. He's been through some adversity in his career, and onward and upward. What about Moreno, though? I mean, how big a setback is this for this kid?
I think it kind of exposed his striking prowess or lack thereof. I mean, he only has 1 TKO on his record. And, I mean, we knew that going in, but in his Dustin Ortiz fight, I believe he actually rocked Ortiz with a head kick.
Yeah.
And that kind of set up the submission. And then he gets into this fight, and you're not head kicking Sergio Pettis. And the longer the fight went on, the more clear it became that there's a huge gap in the striking skill set here.
Which is why it was kind of clever of him to go with sort of a drunken monkey kung fu style in the first round with the really awkward head movement, and you're just looking at him like, what is this jackass doing? It threw Pettis off a little bit and gave him the chance, to get him down in the first round. But
it's hard to sustain that. It's hard to sustain that
especially against, a really skilled striker like Pettis. I mean, after a while, no matter that's the problem with trying to be awkward. Some fighters are genuinely awkward, but I felt like Moreno was really trying to ramp it up and play awkward. And you're not as awkward as you think you are. It's like embezzlers get caught because they're not able to randomize numbers in a realistic way, and you're not able to randomize your movement in a realistic way. And somebody like Pettis is going to see it. He's going to get your timing down. He's going to catch you bobbing and weaving and pop you right when you're leaning into the punch. And that's what he did. I mean, it was a good fight, but I still, and it was a fun card, but I still, especially after last week, which was a monumental card that delivered. Co-main event sucked, but the main event was so good, I didn't care. I mean, I spent all day Sunday last week wishing there was still fights to be watching. You know, I don't have that feeling now. I mean, this was fun, but you know, I having a little not so great card like this a week after such a monumental card, it really is kind of, as somebody said on Twitter, it's like it's going for that last sip of beer and getting cigarette butts in your mouth. I mean,
yeah, but considering what the card was, it overproduced for sure.
It definitely over-delivered. And let's run through. We had the co-main event. It was supposed to be a strawweight fight, but it was a catchweight fight, 119 pounds. Alexa Grasso upset Ronda Markos, split decision. What do you think of that decision?
Controversial decision. Possibly a little bit of home cooking there, or possibly Grasso just really did enough to win the third round there late down the stretch. I don't know. It was a very tough fight, back and forth. I mean, I think it definitely shows that Grasso belongs up there in the top of the division. And I mean, each had their moment, so I can't be upset with the decision. I feel like each of them left it out there. So am I upset that Grasso got the nod? No. Do I feel like Markos was robbed? No. I'm not even against them doing it again, to be quite honest.
Oh, yeah? But not in Mexico City. Not at altitude.
I don't even want to see any fights at altitude. I think that's such an unfair thing to do to these fighters. It's like, hey, you want to fight in Mexico? No? Well, too bad, because you have to, or you're going to sit out for a long-ass time. I mean, it's just, who wants to fight in Mexico?
It's not just Mexico. I mean, not all of Mexico is at high altitudes, but Mexico City and the Central Plateau, I mean, that is a brutal altitude to be fighting. And for the guys and gals that live and train there, it's not such a big deal. But clearly, Markos paid the price, because if she had been able to sustain the pace of the first round and a half, she would have won that fight handily, I think.
Yeah, it could be. And maybe that's the thing is leave Mexico City for the lighter divisions, because the lighter divisions really seem to be doing okay. Even Markos, like, yeah, she got a little tired, but I don't think she was that gassed down the stretch. I think both of them had pretty decent gas tanks. So that could be the key, is just to keep the lighter divisions in Mexico City and keep the bigger guys away.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you know, clearly they'll put a card together of anything. And if you can headline a card with two flyweight contenders, I mean, the 6 and 7 flyweight, you know, you can put any old shit on FS1 and people watch it. But again, the fights were entertaining if you're a hardcore fight degenerate. And then welterweight Nico Price just blitzed Alan Jouban 1 minute 44 seconds.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. Definitely not. I don't know what's up with Jouban. He's a guy that seems like has all this potential. You know, he's got like a modeling career. He's someone the WME can push and get behind. You know, he's doing the media and the podcast and everything. But, you know, he's not showing up in the big fights.
Clearly not. And you know, I don't know. It's just hard to know. It's hard to extrapolate very much from that, but you can extrapolate that Nico Price has a lot of momentum. He had a little reefer-based speed bump in his last win, you know, getting rolled a no contest, or was it fight before last? But otherwise, sparkling UFC run so far.
Yeah, just finishes after finish after finish. Definitely a guy that has a ton of personality. And, you know, he's calling for Japan, I think, next, which is awesome. You know, he's just one of these dudes who can call his own shots, and he's fun to watch, and he produces, and he's finishing people in different ways. He's exciting. And I mean, people aren't really expecting him to win these fights. I think he's been an underdog out of 2 of those 3 UFC fights. And the other one was a pick'em fight. So the odds makers don't really like them, some Nico Price, but I think in his next bout, I think he might be getting a little favorite love.
We'll see. I think it's definitely going to be time to give him the benefit of the doubt. And then at featherweight, Humberto Bandenay just nearly killed Martin Bravo. I mean, the convulsions, the seizure he was into was pretty scary when he got knocked out. That was a knockout. 26 seconds. Looked like a knee on the replay. I did not see what happened live.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. So how do you say this? Bandenay? Bandenay?
I am not the one to ask.
He comes out and he lands a beautiful kick to the liver. And the very next strike, maybe like a second and a half later, was a knee kick. And I mean, it just landed flush right to the jaw. It reminded me of Derek Anderson versus Brandon Gertz. I mean, like instant knockout. The dude was asleep before he hit the canvas. And he even followed up with some vicious ground and pound for no reason, just because he's about that life. I mean, it was an epic knockout. I mean, epic knockout. And the dude's like, what, 22, 23 years old?
Yeah. I mean, he's just a babe. Lots of room to grow here. Looking forward to what we see from him next. I am blocking fools in the chat left and right. And then the big turd in the punch bowl, though, and I knew it was going to suck, was middleweight Sam Alvey, split decision over Rashad Evans, 3 long, painful rounds. Man, it is sad to see Rashad Evans. I mean, the mighty brought low. The guy just doesn't have it anymore. I mean, once upon a time, he would have murked Sam Alvey. I mean, just demolished him with speed and power and phase shifting and wrestling skill and boxing. But now it's just, there's nothing left. I mean, he had some moments. He got some takedowns, but just
really brief takedowns. I mean, he didn't do too much of anything. In terms of strikes landed, I don't recall a single significant strike being landed from Evans. Maybe one in the closing minutes of the fight, but he is not. Man, his last win was Chael Sonnen in 2013, and it's 2017.
I know it is.
How is he still fighting? Like, you're losing back-to-back losses to Dan Kelly and Sam Alvey, I think is a sign.
And at the point when you're the second fight on the main card of this show, I mean, it's not like they're trotting you out there to sell, to get some ratings and there's some money to be. I mean, this is just, I don't know what his motivation is, just to keep busy, to keep in shape. Maybe he thinks he's got, I don't know. I mean, could he possibly think he has a title run left in him? And I'm hoping he'll retire, because the guy had a great career, light heavyweight champion at one point, but I just don't think it's going to happen at middleweight. And Sam Alvey has got a real serious case of arrested development going. I mean, he's been exposed as a pretty inert counter striker. If you don't get wild with Sam, he's just not that aggressive. I mean, he's real dangerous if you go crazy on him and turn it into a, Donnybrook, or a Pier 6 or some shit like that. But if you're going to dance around, he's just going to watch you.
Yeah, this was an absolute dud. An absolute dud. And I kind of feel like this is what happens when you put Sam Alvey in Mexico. Like, he fought Alex Nicholson in Mexico City, and it was, really an underwhelming performance. So maybe you just need to stop putting him at altitude and just keep Rashad away from
I think it's a time to call it a day for Rashad. Not to tell him what to do. I mean, if he wants to keep fighting, more power to you. But but then the opener for the main card, bantamweight Alejandro Perez beat Andre Sukumthot. How do you say that?
Sukumthot.
Sukumthot.
Split
decision, but this was a good fight. I mean, this was a really fun fight. I thought I had it scored for Sukumthot, but Perez came back as the fight went on. And, I really wouldn't put up a huge argument for somebody who wants to say Perez won that fight.
Yeah, I definitely scored it from Sukumthot. I actually gave it to him 29-27 because I gave that first round a 10-8. You drop someone twice, they don't hurt you at all in that round. That should be 10-8able, I think.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I gave Sukumthot the second. And I gave the third round to Perez. But it was close. It was definitely a close fight. But all in all, Sukumthot dropped Perez 3 times with a jab, which was crazy.
It makes me wonder if he is one of these fighters that is naturally right or left-handed, or he's fighting in the wrong stance. Like some fighters, train themselves to fight in the opposite stance, and that when you see that kind of power with the lead hand like that, it's really unusual. And it seems like his left is that he hits harder with his left than his right.
Yeah. And he was landing that left hook a lot also.
Yeah, and for an orthodox fighter, that's kind of surprising. But the big thing is it's his second split decision loss in a row, and he's 0-2 in the UFC. And coming out of the CES as the champ, it's pretty disappointing, I'd have to say.
Definitely disappointing for him, but against Albert Morales in his last outing, that was like 8 days notice, and he had to cut like 18 pounds.
Yeah.
So that's a tough fight that people say he won, and same with this one. I think a lot of people really, really gave this one to Sukumthot. It's hard to see someone drop a guy 3 times in a fight and not award it to him.
Yeah, I got to go with damage and the win for Sukumthot. But you don't see WME, like if WME even watches this card, but I don't see them caring.
Well, I don't know, because each time Sukumthot has been out, he has put on. Each of those
that's true.
TV fights are exciting as hell. He might even win Fight of the Night tonight, to be quite honest.
We will see. We will see. And then on the preliminary card, headliner middleweight Jack Hermanson knocked out Brad Scott 3 minutes 50 seconds of the first round. Got him down, ground and pound.
Yeah, that was absolutely brilliant. He knew exactly what he wanted to do and executed to perfection. And Hermanson, man, he's putting a little streak together. I think he's ready to make a run at the top 15 himself. He's got he finished Brad Scott in the first round, coming off of finish over Alex Nicholson. I mean, maybe he could be a little breath of fresh air at the ever stale middleweight division.
Maybe.
Sam Alvey will be next for him.
I would not mind that, although I don't want to think about.
He'll go right at Sam. He'll go right at him.
Oh yeah, it's true.
It's true. In his fun fights.
Yeah, it's true. But at the moment, I don't want to think about watching Sam Alvey fight for a while. And then you had flyweight Dustin Ortiz set a new record for the shortest flyweight fight in UFC history, 15 seconds over Hector Sandoval. Caught the guy coming in, knew what he was going to be doing, which was throwing a lot of looping punches, threw the straight punches fast and hard, and took the kid right out of there. That was a really well-executed game plan.
Wow. Just wow. 15-second knockout at flyweight? What?
Yeah, you never see that.
Never, ever, ever. And that's huge for Dustin Ortiz, because he's coming off a technical submission loss to Brandon Moreno in his last fight, whereas we mentioned earlier, he got rocked with the head kick, good old-fashioned club and sub, and actually got put unconscious. So this was an epic return to form. And I think he really solidified his spot as a top 10 flyweight. The loss to Moreno kind of set him back a little bit, but I think this performance will move him right back up there. And Sandoval, he gives me a Pat Barry feel. Like,
yeah,
I don't know what it is. I just felt like it was a little Pat Barry out there, just getting knocked out cold.
Well, we'll see. I look forward to seeing him again, but I think other people will have watched this fight now, and but this isn't the easiest game plan to execute. That's the thing. You got to have pop in your hands, and you got to be able to throw straight, accurate, and fast. Because Sandoval was coming in and he was throwing hard and fairly accurately. It's just that Ortiz used all that momentum against him, just shooting laser beams out of his hand. And then you had bantamweight Hani Yahya submit Henry Briones with a Kimura 2 minutes 1 second of the first round. I had a feeling this was sort of a gimme, get back on track fight for Yahya, although why anybody would care enough about Yahya as a business proposition to do that, I don't know. But, Yahya did what he was supposed to do. He took the guy down, and he showed why he's one of the best grapplers in the UFC.
It was beautiful. He knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he was able to do it. The biggest question for me was, would his gas tank be able to hold up? But luckily, that we never got to address that, because he went in there and handled business. And that Kimura was beautiful, absolutely vicious. And he might have like done some damage, to be quite honest, because he
Oh
was
yeah, if I
holding
saw
it
that
before the ref got in there. The ref was slow on that stoppage.
yeah, if you saw something like that, like at a kids jiu-jitsu tournament, you'd be freaking out. Like, you stop the fight because this guy's getting his shoulder dislocated. And then you had bantamweight Jose Alberto Quinones, unanimous decision over Diego Rivas. Got all 3 rounds, all 3 judges' cards. Just outslicked him. I mean, it seemed like a serious difference in degree of skill level of the 2 fighters striking.
Yeah, Quinones, his footwork was really, I think, the key to him getting the victory here. He just was nowhere to be found when Rivas was trying to hit him, and Rivas just could not get off for the life of him.
Yeah, Quinones really controlled range and good performance. Look forward to seeing him further at bantamweight. And then the 2 fights on the Fight Pass card, both of them got aired on Fox Sports 1 because they were just chewing through the airtime with all those first-round stoppages. So you had flyweight Joseph Morales submit Roberto Sanchez, a rear naked choke, 1 minute 3:56. That was just a classic club and sub.
Classic club and sub, just a straight right hand, wobbled Sanchez. Morales took the back, sunk the rear naked choke, called it a day.
Yep, and well done. And then in the opening fight, lightweight, Jordan Rinaldi submitted Alvaro Herrera with a Von Flue choke. Herrera did that to himself. I mean, basically, anytime you get caught with a Von Flue choke, it's your own fault. But if you noticed, Rinaldi had the arm locked in so that Herrera couldn't have let go if he'd wanted to. I mean, he held on to the headlock way too long. You know, if your opponents get into side mount, let go of the headlock. But he held on to it long enough for Rinaldi to lock that arm in, and he was just done.
Yeah, it was smooth. I love Von Flue chokes. Shout out to Jason Von Flue, by the way.
Oh yeah,
I know he's watching. So yeah, man, I loved it. The way he got the submission, like he really used the cage to his advantage to pin Herrera down there and just drive his shoulder into his neck.
Yeah,
it was awesome. I love Von Flue chokes. Excellent way to start the card. And an excellent precursor to what we had in store, which was 7 first-round finishes.
Yeah, however, given that it was a Fox Sports 1 card, it wasn't like it was boom, 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 fight, 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 fight. It was fight, and then a lot of bullshit, and then fight, a lot of bullshit, talking, and fights you've already seen, and the whole bit. But as Fox Sports 1 cards go, this was quite entertaining. It didn't mean much. I mean, the top ranked contenders on the card were not in the top 5 at any point, but you had some 6s and 7s, a couple.
We had a former champion in Rashad Evans.
Yeah. How the mighty have fallen, man. That was just did you see the other day Lyoto Machida was calling out Rashad Evans? I was just like
that's like the blind leading the blind right there.
Well, I mean, Machida's like, I really beat the pants off Rashad Evans. I bet I could do it again. And, that was just sad. All right. So anything else to say about Pettis and Moreno in our main event?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a huge, huge win for Pettis, and I'm real curious to see how they match him up going forward. I mean, does this necessarily get him a title shot? I don't know. It might just get him the fight with Cejudo rebooked, to be quite honest.
That's what I'm expecting. That it's just a placeholder. I think for Moreno, they would have given him a bigger push. I mean, they really got excited about Moreno after that Ortiz win and built this whole card around him, which sort of inexplicable. But here we are.
It's not inexplicable. I mean, they cashed in at the right time is what it sounds like.
Oh, yeah, that's true. It's true. They definitely sold Moreno at what is probably a peak, but he's young. He's got a lot of room to improve. I think he will. I think he's somebody we could see again emerge into contention in the flyweight division. So I'm definitely not writing the kid off. I'm just saying I'm still sort of staggered that he was headlining a card. So that's our card. That's our show. Subscribe to MMA Nation on YouTube. Subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube. Subscribe to MMA Nation on iTunes. Get the audio without the ugly. Follow me on Twitter at KidNate, at the Eddie Mercado to follow Eddie. Read us about thebloodyyelbow.com. And we've got UFC Fight Night Struve versus Volkov coming up in what?
September 2nd.
September. Yeah. So, but we have a little thing called Mayweather McGregor going on, so we'll have all the coverage, more coverage of that than you could possibly want. So prepare to be nauseated by the hype and the spectacle and our sheer clickbait effrontery and exploiting it just like everybody else. This is the fight business after all. So thanks, Eddie, and adios, MMA aficionados. We'll see you next time.